My first fursuit head had a lot of issues. The base was lopsided, the markings were wonky, and it was so tight it felt like a saw trap. For version 2, I came prepared with my previous fursuit knowledge and a TPU base. Hello! So I've already made a foam head base before, you can see by watching these videos right here. And while I did love the experience of carving my own head and having my own style, I wanted to do something a little bit different this time by using 3D printed heads. This 3D printed base is the feline head base from Ashes and Needles on Instagram. It is a TPU print, meaning it is lightweight, durable, and most importantly, squishy. This base fit my full head height perfectly, and the large muzzle made it very, very breathable. To make everything fit more comfortable though, I added upholstery foam padding to the sides, nose bridge, and a thin strip on the top. Even without the elastic or straps to secure it to my head, it was still super stable and comfortable. TPU is also lighter than PLA, so I wasn't worried about becoming too front heavy. Now that we have our padding beautifully installed, I'm going to go ahead and start with taping the inside to make the lining pattern. I think it should be pretty straightforward. I'm just worried about getting inside of the mouth muzzle right here just because it feels awkward to do that. So we're going to try our best to see how it goes. And because it's mostly symmetrical, I think I only need to tape one side. While taping, I did a little story time about my nightmare first attempt to get a head base, which is a bonus bit for my channel members. It was unfortunate. And the postal office person was like, well, that's actually a common scam. With half of the inside taped, I could begin drawing the pattern out. So I have marked this pattern out to the best of my ability. I don't really know how to mark out the patterns on here. I just know to make them as flat as possible, so I try to section off the big foamy areas as one, as well as sectioning off the muzzle and the bottom jaw into like a couple pieces. But it's time to remove them and put them on our paper. I'm trying to keep the nose pickable by lining it, but yeah, this is kind of annoying to get out, huh? Alright, muzzle. And I'm gonna finish cutting out the rest of this and cutting out the pattern here. So, I'll see you when I'm done with that. I used leftover lycra from my first fursuit head as my lining as it was comfy and it had a lot of stretch. It was also free, so bonus points there. One of the tips I noticed after I had made my first head was that makers lined the inside of the muzzle with minky, so it looks more like the inside of a mouth. Just sew the lining pieces together like a puzzle and you're left with an unsettling inner skin suit that you can hot glue wrestle into place. So I have the finished lining here, and it's, you know, not the best, but it's passable. And I was thinking about how I was going to do the back cowl and like have the neck fully lined. It was kind of throwing me for a loop, and I had to put the project down for a couple weeks. And then I come back and I realized I don't have to line the neck if I don't want to. That is one of the biggest joys of making your own fursuits, is if something feels like you don't want to do it, you don't have to. So to make sure this head actually stays on, I'm going to follow Mugiwara's tutorials here about how to do the straps for the head base, and I think that will be secure enough to keep it on. So for the head straps, I'm going to draw out 2 side straps. With my pattern cut out here, I'm going to go ahead and transfer them onto a suitable strap material. So I'm going to use my leftover wool felt that I have here for making my cloaks. But it's still a natural fiber, so it's a little bit more breathable than something like a lycra or a spandex. And I'm going to leave a seam allowance on this one. so that when I sew them together, which is why I'm cutting out 4 of the side pieces instead of 2, that the sizing will be correct. So now I'm just going to repeat this for the other side piece as well as the top one. Now with your parts all clipped up and cut out, we're going to go ahead and sew them around, leaving one side open to turn inside out. And I just got my new sewing machine not too long ago, and it is very powerful and very scary. I love industrial machines. The way it's gonna work is this side strap here. It's gonna rest right here. Then the other side strap, on the other side of the head obviously, will come and Velcro on top of this other side strap. Then the top strap being underneath, you're going to Velcro right here. So it's all together in one big piece. I'm gonna go ahead and mark an X where I need my soft Velcro. X for soft. And then I'm going to do a O for my hard Velcro. I like to get a soft on top and then a tooth on bottom, so I can just do that. So in general, it's probably better to sew these straps in instead of gluing them in, but I didn't leave myself a lot of room to like even hand sew this in, so I'm just gonna go with the tried and true method of hot glue. And this strappy goes like that, because this... I did it the wrong way. Time to see how strong this really is. It's pretty strong, actually, not gonna lie. And it's still not cooled yet, it's still pretty warm. Let's figure this out the right way. This goes in like that. There we go. This is the side to glue, not the other side. So I just tried it on, and this little glue patch doesn't actually touch any part of my skin, so it will actually be fine if it's there, but I'll try and get it off over the time. But hot glue is notorious for not getting off of any material you put it on. So these will close like... You're joking. This is not a bit. I am just really that bad at positioning. And we have a strap that actually goes on and is not glued in the wrong position. All right, we have all the straps open, but if I want to close it, just gotta strap these two closed. And this one comes underneath and around. All right, now that the straps are glued, and I also added a little bit more Velcro to this one, I'm going to give y'all the try on. So top strap down first, and then I will take my soft one, then the other side, like that. Then take the top one down here and secure them in place. And there you have it. I do need to cut into the TPU right here just because it's a little, oh God, why am I being raptured? I do need to cut into the lower part of the jaw right here just because it juts into my neck. And I don't think that's an issue with the straps. I think that's just an issue with the model and my face shape. Not all models will be quite your size. I have a feeling that TPU is a little bit more forgiving when it comes to cutting into it, because PLA tends to shatter. But the straps really help hold it on. I feel super duper like secure in this. Like I can just shake it and it's not gonna go anywhere. And I was right, this was super easy to remove material from, just took pliers and some time. Now that the base is finalized, it is time to tape up and pattern the fur. With 3D printed bases, they are typically symmetrical, so I only need to tape one side to get the pattern. Here, I am marking the fur colors and pattern of the head. Maple is pretty straightforward when it comes to markings, but I wanted to make sure I improved and made some of the markings easier for me to sew. I ended up using a different white fur for version 2, as the original white fur I used was just terrible. This one still wasn't very good, but it got the job done. One of the main improvements on the suit was taking the time to pre-shave my fur pieces. I found this extremely helpful when it came to sewing the pieces together and to get a clean finish at the end. I even picked up this fancy wired shaver because the old ones I used were just like not working anymore. Can recommend these new ones though, especially if you want to do more fursuit or fur work in the future. If you are ever struggling to reassemble your fursuit puzzle, I recommend taking a photo of the uncut tape pattern on the head and use it as a reference for later. None of the stitching for Maple was particularly hard or small, so I was able to machine sew it all. She looks like a horse right now. Now, if I had to go back and change anything on Maple, I would redo her nose completely. I just wasn't happy with the solution I came up with, which was adding more foam and gluing the edges around, as it looked a little bit messy. Luckily, I can make a separate nose and hand stitch it on later. Gluing the fur down this time around was 100 times easier, mostly because I didn't have to mess around with the ears being attached. But I do have some wrinkles where the pattern was too large, so whoops. Speaking of ears, I must have completely forgot to film anything about them. No worries, I can give my artistic breakdown of them now. Much how like I sculpted the ears on my first fursuit, I used upholstery foam to make the general shape. Then I did a duct tape pattern and transferred it to my fur. Once everything was sewn together, I glued the fur onto the ears, making sure to leave enough seam allowance at the end to sew it onto the head. Finally, I hand stitched them to the head, with much difficulty and suffering, but the final result was cute and durable ears. I also did a similar method for her cheek fluff, minus the foam inserts. She's already looking leagues better than version 1 at this point, but another shave is necessary for that crisp look. And I even filmed the eye mesh painting for y'all. I'm very good at my job, I swear. I should have been a little more gentle when painting the backs of the eye mesh black, because I did end up getting black on the other side. Whoops. You might also notice I'm using a sponge this time around. This is to prevent the mesh from getting clogged with paint, making it harder to see. You might also doubly notice that I said screw the sponge and switched to a paintbrush. That is because I am impatient, and I wanted the color to build up faster. So, poking out the eye mesh was in my future anyways. With everything painted, I hot glued the eyes into the head as I don't fully trust friction fit still. Instead of guesstimating the eyelashes this time, I used the tried and true fursuit method of clear tape and a Sharpie. There's a reason why everyone uses this method to get crisp eyelashes. It's because it works. For my eyelash material, I used leftover wool felt with heat and bond stabilizer ironed on. This made it much more stiffer, therefore easier to cut out and glue on. One of my biggest icks on Maple 1.0 is the back of her head is, well, flat. I wanted to have a rounded cowl on the new version as well as a neck that didn't strangle me. I used Teacup Lion's cowl pattern and altered it to be a little bit smaller and add a zipper on the back seam. Finally, the accessories. With Maple 1.0, it was hard to tell that she was a cat moth even when I wore the moth wings. For version 2, I added leaf antenna and moth wings to her head with Minky. I prepped all the pieces with heat and bond stabilizer, which kept the pieces stiff, and I could also draw on them. Sandwiching 2 pieces of Minky together, I sewed around the shape, leaving an opening at the bottom to turn, and stuffed them. It wasn't impossible to turn these inside out, but it was pretty painful. For the moth wings, I did a technique called applique. It is basically when you attach 2 pieces of fabric together by sewing around the top shape. Heat and bond is commonly used for applique because you could peel off the backing to reveal another sticky side, like double-sided tape. When you iron the 2 pieces of fabric together, they are bonded. I split up the moth wings to an eye part and the line part to make it a little bit easier. With the dark brown Minky on the bottom, I sew a basting stitch all around the entire pattern to keep the 2 pieces together before stitching the dark brown lines in their place. I repeated this for the lime green eyes before cutting to remove the excess Minky from both. Placing the base moth wing down first, I removed the backing from the line part and positioned them correctly. Because Minky is a polyester fiber, I used medium to low heat and a pressing cloth to avoid melting the fabric. I held the iron over the pieces until they were mostly stuck down. Then repeat for the eyepieces. Here are all the pieces glued together. To make sure that the moth wings are durable, I also went around the edges with a satin stitch. You might have seen creators do this with paw pads on fur. It's the same technique. Finally, I hand-stitched everything to the head, which leads us to... Seeing the 2 heads side by side took me out at first. I know that the base is doing a lot of heavy lifting on the improvement, but my stitching and shaping also got better. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe to see more. Now what should I do with this old head? Happy crafting!